The Point of View is sponsored by First National Bank. First National Bank, how can we help you? And Cowbell Coffee. Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it.
Welcome to The Point of View. This is your favorite current affairs show on television. Here on The Point of View, we pick the right topics, we get the right guests, and ask them relevant questions on issues that matter to you. It's a very big show we have for you tonight. In view of all that's been happening here at City FM and City TV, I'll be speaking to three very knowledgeable people on different aspects of the running story brought to you. If in case you don't know, City TV and City FM was besieged by armed security personnel on Tuesday, the 11th of May. And they came in to arrest a colleague of ours because she had received a photo taken by a colleague of ours at the car park of the National Security. It's been 6 days since the issue occurred. We'll tell you what we've done so far and tell you who my guests are when we come back. Stay with us.
This morning,
nothing wakes me up better than a cup of Cowbell coffee. Delicious coffee aroma.
How can you forget your lines again?
I'm sorry, sir, just that it tastes really good.
Cowbell coffee.
Enjoy the delicious creamy coffee taste of 3-in-1 Cowbell coffee.
It's a beautiful day.
Waiting.
Cowbell coffee. Taste it, love it.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
And don't forget, the Point of View is brought to you by First National Bank and Cowbell Coffee. So City FM, City TV management today presented a petition to the National Media Commission asking them to investigate the raid on our station and also the treatment of Caleb Kuda. He was detained around 2:30 p.m., severely beaten by armed men and also by a man he later identified as the Director of Operations of National Security, kicked in the groin, slapped many times throughout his 5 hours at National Security. We've petitioned the National Media Commission to look into the matter and also to come up with some specific recommendations if they can. Tonight, I'm going to look at the security architecture of Ghana and how it's set up and what this latest development means for the call for change that has been echoed by many. My guest for the first part is Dr. Emmanuel Kwesi Inin, one of Ghana's foremost security thinkers. Later on, I'll be speaking to two lawyers who have journalistic background, Sammy Darko and Samson Lardy, who express their views on how journalists should go about their work in times like these. Dr. Inin, good evening. Thank you for joining us on The Point of View.
Yes, good evening. So it's a great pleasure, Bernard.
So I'm sure you've received bits and pieces of the story, and we've also shared some of the videos of what occurred. What do you make of the raid on City FM, City TV on Tuesday, and also the narration Caleb has given us about his ordeal at the hands of national security officials?
Well, I've been wondering what was the extent of the gravity of the national security breach that we had this Rambo-style invasion of your premises under democratic dispensation. And what do I mean by what I'm saying? When we see national security operatives who actually, in the real sense of the operational action, should not be doing what they did, but I will come to that later, then one perceives or one thinks about the gravity of what potential breaches somebody has caused to lead to such a massive invasion and a Rambo-style attack on your offices. And I've deliberately over time not asked myself what has been the seriousness of the breach, because there are so many other things that ought to be considered prior to the seriousness of whatever offense has been caused. And this relates to who acts in a particular way in the name of the national security architecture. I think over the last decade or decade and a half, the terminology national security has become so amorphous that we are unable to separate the council, that is the body that drives and determines the broad framework of what comes under what would be perceived as the threats that a nation faces, led by the president, the vice president, the ministers of defense, interior, the service chiefs, the attorney general, and a host of other people. So their main function is to lay out the issues about assessments, what the threats are, and then we have a secretariat that runs the day-to-day job. So that the national security, if we use that terminology, itself ought not to be an operational part of both the council and the secretariat. What the National Security Council does is that because, as I've said earlier on, all the critical ministries and the service chiefs are there. When an assessment is made and an action is supposed to be taken, if it is a police action, then it is the IGP who does it. But based on the assessment, if the IGP thinks that, look, I would need military support, I would need customs support, immigration support, I would need air support, then all these subsidiary institutions come in to help. So this new culture of operatives of the secretariat, armed and engaging in hands-on operational activity, is something that we need to look at. That is not what ought to be. And I think what you experienced at your offices is a reflection of the misunderstanding around what.
So if I get you correctly, the architecture of national security ought not have an operational unit with armed police. If they believe they have to do something that requires some sort of intervention of that nature, they can then laterally speak to police or other security agencies to do that. Their job is essentially strategy and oversight, not operational execution of issues.
Well, I think you've captured it much more clearly than I could have said. Yes.
So that the concept of, for example, a team led by DSP Azugu, which is based within the national security premises, with some of them referred to as a SWAT team, is not even necessary.
It's not necessary at all. And it is this lacunae that we experienced during the Emil Short Commission's work on the Ayawaso West Wagon violence, in which none of the statutory ministries and service chiefs could claim to know about this team could claim to know about their weaponry and could claim to have oversight over the activities of Mr. Azugu. Therein lies the lacuna in which individuals who are within this secretariat, armed, virtually don't report to any of the appropriate ministers and ministries as per the Short Commission hearings. And more than a year after these hearings, in which this lacuna was demonstrated to the world, we seem to be experiencing it once more. And it raises particular questions as to how, in a democratic dispensation, we can have a group of armed individuals within a state institution or structure who virtually do not report to anyone that Parliament can hold accountable.
But does the presence of a national security ministry, indeed, the premises within which the photograph was taken houses two buildings, the new Ministry of National Security and then the other building which we know to be the National Security Edifice, does the fact that Mr. Kandapa, the minister, is vetted by Parliament and to an extent, in fact, in the open, does not address part of the challenge you're raising, that whatever is happening there, there's a minister in charge, which wasn't the case in previous administrations?
Now, once more, that is where part of the challenge is. If you remember, during the Ayawaso hearings, I don't remember if Mr. Dapa appeared before the Ayawaso.
He did.
Yeah. Now, if he did, I do also remember what he said, but I doubt very much if he claimed oversight and control over the SWAT team, or that Azugu, for example, reported to him. Now, you would also remember that during the Ayawaso hearings or the Short Commission hearings, I don't remember if the late chairman also appeared before the Short Commission. What we have is an amorphous structure that allows these operatives. Where is Mr. Sammy Darko that he's sweating so much? And what we have is an amorphous structure that allows these armed individuals, to shift and move beneath the radar, and therein lies the danger. You see, if you remember, Bernard, just before the elections, 2 or 3 so-called national security operatives in full public view beat up an armed military officer. That led to a Deba being held at the Shell camp to calm the troops. Okay, so we have on our hands an institutional monster that is beginning to grow horns and increasingly is uncontrollable. Okay, now, if the taking of pictures of the armed vehicles is perceived by these operatives as a threat to Ghana's national security, then I think this conversation that we are having is an even worse threat to Ghana's national security. You see, because the question that we need to be asking ourselves then relates to what are the mechanisms and the procedures for identifying and tagging something as of national security interest. First, of national interest, very broadly, and a subset of that national interest becoming the national security.
Okay.
Okay, how do we do that? Who determines that? And what is the criteria for saying this must not come into the public?
Okay. Doc, let me just bring Sammy in quickly and also Samson, Lardy. I'll come back to you. And whilst you're at it, we want to adjust your camera briefly because it looks like your headroom is not right. So my people will talk to you off the record to just get the camera angle well. Now, I also have on the line Sammy Darko, who is initially a journalist, did some security work, and now he's a lawyer. And Samson Lardy Ayenini. Sammy and Samson, thank you for joining us on The Point of View. Sammy, good evening.
Good evening, Bernard.
So, just a quick interjection from you before your substantive question. Yes.
Well, let me first greet my lecturer and my professor, Professor Enin. Well, I will pick up from where Professor Enin left off. You know, he talks about a lacuna. As a result of the Ayawaso West Wagon, we discovered a lacuna. Now, that lacuna can be captured under Act 526, which is the old Security and Intelligence Act. In that act, there was no structure called national security. The only structure that we know of or knew of was the National Security Council. Now, I would like to submit that lacuna, apparently, it appears that the government has taken care of that lacuna through the new Security and Intelligence Agencies Act, Act 1030. And I will briefly show why I think that, and it's not just me, there have been a group of lawyers, we've been studying the new act, and we've discovered that the new act appears to take care of that lacuna.
I just wanted to come back to you because before we came on air, Umaru Sanda Amadou interviewed the Ashanti Regional National Security Coordinator in the person of Dikop Opariado, I think the name is. I'm not sure whether it's Edupoko Opariado. I'll get the name. But in that interview, on the same day this issue happened at City, his office was raided by men from a group called Delta Forces, who handcuffed him and literally wanted to carry him out of his office, claiming to have received some instructions from Accra. I mean, the man hasn't showed up to work since, and it's a scandal that is being discussed. Now, in the interview with Sanda, he pointed out that some of these people are from the Delta Forces and some were involved in Galamsey and other things. Some people think that part of the problem with the national security is also the pushing in of political people who are not properly trained to work within the national security in various capacities. What's your comment on that view based on the case study of what happened in Kumasi on the same Tuesday around 5 p.m. while our ordeal was going on?
Well, Bernard, when I read that story, I normally don't feel sad, but I truly did feel sad. But this is a man who has served Ghana and risen through the police ranks to the position of a deputy commissioner of police. Now, to have a parallel unstructured vigilante group having the audacity to manhandle him in public and before his staff and to handcuff him raises lots of questions around the disbandment of the vigilantes and how successful or effective that disbandment has been. I have always argued that we are seeing a transformation of these vigilantes into something else. The franchising of what they do, that is providing, in the first instance, physical protection. Over time, that franchising of physical protection has led to a recognition that they can also transfer those strengths into economic, work. So we are seeing, and this is a confirmation from the DCOP, that they are interested in Galamsey. We know some are involved in the felling of rosewood, in collecting taxes on the charcoal trade in the Savannah region, in particular, in creating law enforcement in Tinga, in Bani, in Bandang Kwanta. So that what we've seen in Kumasi, and let's not forget, this happened, I think, in 2017 also, in which these people went to court and were given a very low fine and walked out of court laughing. Okay, now, this year I've counted just about 4 or 5 instances of vigilante violence. Now, the low levels of vigilante violence this year does not necessarily correlate to the successes of the disbandment. Very far from it. The low levels reflect the fact that we've seen one party succeed itself. And therefore, the tensions, the anger, the desire for rent-seeking activities are considerably low. Had another party succeeded the incumbent, we would have seen a much more violent, widespread incidences of vigilante activity. What the Kumasi case demonstrates to us is that this is just a problem that has been pushed underground for the time being. My research from last year and early part of this year shows that they've diversified into all kinds of economic activities: rosewood, charcoal, cyber crimes, providing protection, law enforcement, and in other areas in North America.
So if I get you right, it will be very limiting to construe what happened at City FM and what happened to Caleb Kuda from purely a media freedom interposed with national security. You are suggesting there's a deeper problem with the national security, one of which manifestation is what happened to our journalists and what happened at our premises.
That's correct. I'm not suggesting. I'm actually making a statement of fact that what happened is a minute part of a much larger problem.
So 2 final points for you. How do we solve this, and what should the government do on this specific case of City to show that it is interested in changing the status quo?
Well, one, it's good for the government to demonstrate a change in the status quo, because as a democracy governed by the rule of law, respect for human rights, that it is imperative that state institutions don't flout the law and abuse the rights of their citizens. 2, I want to see a much more robust intervention by Parliament, the Parliamentary Committee on Defense and Interior. This, after all, comes under their remit in the long term. A strong, functional oversight will trickle down to issues of recruitment, of training, of professionalization, of mentorship, of promotion, one of the much more effective, responsive, collaborative national security agencies.
Let me take Samson's initial thoughts. Samson, Lardy, thank you for joining us. As a media practitioner and a lawyer, going through what happened at City TV and City FM on Tuesday, reflecting on it for over 4 or 5 days, what are your opening thoughts? What do you think happened that day, and what are your reflections on what happened?
Bernard, this is an aberration. This is an anathema. That is a sin that cannot be forgiven. And we save this country if we take the steps that are required and that are known already, including through the Emil Short Commission, to ensure that this does not happen again. Even if I did wrong and you showed me a law I have broken, you could arrest me on suspicion of committing a crime, but once you arrest me, you are not entitled, you are not allowed by law to hit me, to beat me up, especially when I am not resisting arrest. Not to talk about an act which in the first place and I repeat for the whole world to hear me once again, which in the first place is no crime. The Ministry of National Security is yet to point out that this was a crime. And read the statement they issued. They don't say that taking a video or making a photograph around the place was a crime. They are now seeking refuge in what they say that Caleb accessed the place through deceit. That clearly tells me they are fishing. They can't think about it. This must not happen to anybody in this country ever again, and we can stop it. The way to stop it must start now. First, I want them to release the CCTV at the place where Caleb was handled. Release it unedited and show it to the whole of the world. And number two, clearly they cannot be investigating themselves. The rules of natural justice frowns upon a person acting as a judge in their own cause. It should not happen. There should be an independent inquiry, one that is empowered by the Constitution, where either the president will do it himself. If he doesn't do it, this is an opportunity for the NDC minority in parliament with their numbers to pass the necessary votes to compel the president to set up one. That is, if the Council of State, which is also empowered to advise the president to set up a commission to do one of these. To just open up and ask Ghanaians who have encountered the national security to come and tell their stories. I am very sure there are a number of lawyers, including myself, who will appear and tell a story that is very consistent with what Caleb told. And once again, let me say this to the whole world. I believe every bit of what Caleb said because it is so consistent with too many of the stories I have been privileged to encounter, and some of which we are in court fighting the national security about.
So Samson, you also seem to be saying that beyond resolving the assault of Caleb and the raid on City, this could be the best chance to deal with this canker, which has become a part of the way the national security treats citizens and journalists. So this could be the platform to do that.
The story we have heard is so consistent with so many other stories, and I'm left in no doubt that this clearly has been the modus operandi, unconstitutional, unlawful methods used in interrogating suspects. The law in Article 19 says everybody is presumed innocent. Innocent. I don't know where they get their training. Presumed innocent until they by themselves have pleaded guilty, or a court of competent jurisdiction, not a court set up in the national security, has found them guilty. And even where a person has been found guilty, they are not subjected to the torture that we hear about at that place. This clearly is a fine opportunity, and the president must take advantage of this. I mention the president again, not because I am interested in any politics of it, but because he is the head of the institution. That is an institution that he is head of, both in the old law and in the new law. He is the head of the institution. He must take this opportunity and let the corrections be done. In fact, I am reliably informed that the president has issued instructions over time that he does not want intelligence organizations like this entity to be involved in police work, and that at all times they must comply with the dictates of law. First, they arrest suspects and they do not allow them their rights, even where lawyers are making intervention, which is required by Article 14 of the Constitution. They may deny you the opportunity of being with your clients, and we have heard lawyers beginning to speak. Then, beyond that, you have the situation where they seize items on individuals and proceed to access the contents of the items in flagrant breach of the law. I must say once again that this entity has been acting above the law. That is their attitude, above the law attitude, and they must be brought to book. They must be cut to size. There are some people in that institution that are not excited at all about the bad name that some of the operatives bring them. What has intelligence got to do with going to Asankregua, and this is a very recent situation, storming a shop, ransacking it, taking money, and destroying CCTV cameras? What is intelligence about that? In the course of before the elections or so, we heard some of them had been to places refusing to identify themselves and engaging in acts, including taking money. This must...
Okay, thank you. We'll be back. This is still the point of view. Tonight we're reflecting on national security, media practice, and the law. My guest, Dr. Kwesi Enin, one of our foremost security experts in this part of the world. I also have Sammy Darko, a lawyer, and Samson Lardy Ayenini, also a lawyer. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters.
It's a good day to meet every challenge. It's a good day to want more out of life. It's a good day to wish for it, work for it, go get it. Familiar taste, a delicious indulgent with a flavor you just can't hide. Refreshing energy gives so much for so little. For a strong performance, you've come to the right place. Good Day Energy Drink. Why wait a minute to enjoy a good day when every second counts? Good Day Energy Drink keeps you going.
Excessive drinking can be detrimental to your health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
You've done the hard work, the analysis, the selection. It's all going according to plan. Until City miss a sitter, and you miss your multi-bet by one. Miss your multi-bet by one, and we will return up to 20 times your stake. We've got your back, even when City don't.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Bet responsibly, not for persons below 18 years.
Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight we are using the case of Caleb Kuda's assault at the hands of national security operatives and the raid on City FM, City TV to enter the conversation of national security, media freedom, or media practice and the law. My guest, Dr. Kwesi Enin, Sammy Darko, a lawyer, and Samson Ayenini, also a lawyer. Both gentlemen have been working in media as well. Doc, I know you have to leave us. Just get your final thoughts. Samson is really convinced that the president has the power and the president ought to be the one the buck stops with. Some people have also said that the national security itself, those who are within it, who are professional, should speak up and call for change because the bad nuts are sullying their name. Where do you think change has to come from?
Oh, change has to come from the very top. Now, I think when the president indicates that he wants national institutions to work within the remit of the law, that is what must happen. And he must consistently demand and request reports and see, progress being done. The top professionals within these institutions who are frustrated, who have lost the interest, who see people being recruited, promoted over and above their station, and who are demoralized. Because these are hierarchical institutions, they have very little capacity to bring about change from within. That is not where change must start from. The only thing those professionals can do is to continue to work professionally so that the public can see the difference between the technocratic people and the professional people and the less professional ones. But I think it's the president who should give clear directives that he wants to see change the shortest possible time.
Thank you, Dr. Kwesi Enin. Let me come to Sammy. Sammy, the Caleb incident, his narration on this program last week, and the videos of City FM, City TV, and the raid has generated a lot of uproar. We've seen national security, or we've heard how they've treated people in the past. Why do you think this particular one is annoying people so much, and in terms of their response, and what kind of opportunity does that offer for broader reform?
First of all, I would like to say that what has happened is also part of the groundswell of dissatisfaction generally across the country. And so this is more like the icing on the cake. Don't forget that there have been a lot of agitation and protest in the country. And for national security to be involved in such a thing has rubbed off wrongly on the side of many Ghanaians. So it has also contributed to why there's a lot of disgust or dissatisfaction. But for me, what I think we need to understand, and I tried to explain it earlier, is that what is national security? Because when we say national security, what is that? Because formally, what we know that we only have what we call National Security Council. But so in the past, people have come and say, I'm from national security, and they were involved in so many things, and they didn't have any legal authority. Now, my proposition is that the new act that we have seems to be taking care of this lacuna, especially out of the Ayawaso West Wagon incident. And so now you notice that in the new act, they are referring to a certain creature they are calling national security apparatus. So if people show up and say they are from national security, it is not from National Security Council, because the council is different and consists of the president and other ministers. And so it means they are coming from the apparatus, because those people, if they don't identify themselves as coming from NID, which is the formerly BNI, or the research department, then who are they? Because we only know of NIB and the research department. We don't know of any other creature. But my proposition is that if you read carefully, you see that there's a new structure called National Security Apparatus. And this is where these people appear to be coming from, because it has been put directly under the supervision of the National Security Minister. So that is why they've created a chief director. And so this National Security Apparatus report directly to the minister. And so in this instance, the raid at City FM, it was carried out by what they refer to as the National Security Apparatus, who are directly under the Minister for National Security. He is directly responsible for them, and whatever they do is under his supervision. And that is what I want Ghanaians to know when we say, but the problem is also this: even though they've created what they call a National Security Apparatus, their duty is still very clear: to collect data, collate data and information, and supply it to the minister, and then the minister also forces it on. But increasingly, you still find national security apparatus engaging in acts that do not border on their core operations. Sometime, I think early this year, I reported an incident of an uncle of mine where his car was seized by a national security apparatus operative. I mean, this is clearly not part of their function. It clearly has nothing to do with their function, and yet they do it. And the reason why this apparatus is able to work and why they brought in the apparatus is because of the incident that Ayawaso West Wagon. So now this apparatus enabled them to even keep what they call the SWAT team, keep the police officers and all of them there because the architecture is so not clear. And if you go through the act very well, you realize that this apparatus is neither part of the internal security or external security. So you get so confused as to whether even the police powers enumerated in the act applies to them. And that is the confusion that I think that it is time for us to come again and even amend this act, which is so not late, because we need to know the national security apparatus. Who are they? I know they are under the minister, but is it a core agency?
So, Sammy, are you agreeing with Dr. Enin that they don't need an operational unit, they don't need police people, they are gathering intelligence? If they need to do something operational, they should talk to the police to do that specific thing. If they need to do something that requires an external aggressor, they can talk to the army. But they themselves do not require an operational unit. You seem to be at idem with him on that point.
Yes, I agree with Dr. Enin when he says that. But what I'm saying is that the lawmaker has taken care of it and has seemed to have brought something they call the national security apparatus, which now gives them all the powers that in the past they could not exercise. But even with that powers, what I'm also reiterating is that their powers is not for what they did at City, to come and raid City. Because that's why Dr. Enin was saying, what kind of breach did Caleb or Zoe commit that will warrant a raid like this by, say, national security? And what kind of intelligence did they gather? Because their work primarily is intelligence operation. So did you gather that what Caleb did was going to hurt the security of the state? That is why you moved him. But I'm saying that moving in with police or with any other institution, people have said that who are they responsible for? And I'm trying to say that they are responsibly under the control of the Minister for National Security, and he controls the activity. And so if he's demanding an answer, they should demand it. That is why the press release was signed by the chief director, because I'm saying that this national security apparatus report directly to the minister.
So, today we interviewed Ajafo, the other journalist who 2 years ago was arrested and, in his words, brutalized by national security officials. And he made a point that the way they do it and the way they hit you, they know how they are hitting you so that it will be difficult to have evidence. Now, Samson also speaks about us having to demand for the CCTV footage of their interrogation. I mean, is there a precedence to this? Is there any law that can help us say to them that, look, you say you arrested Caleb for unlawfully entering and taking a video. Can you release the footage of how you question him? What law or where can we come from to make that demand?
Well, I think that this may not be on any law, but based on principles of accountability and transparency. And so on that ground, you can make such an appeal to them. But as to whether they will agree with you is another issue altogether. But for instance, for there to be transparency, for us to have confidence in national security, it's in their own interest to make the footage available. I mean, if they've been able to make what Caleb captured available to the media, I'm sure that this will not be too difficult for them to make available. But beyond that, I think that we always have to use the legal processes to seek redress. And one of them, for instance, which is very clear, is that they breach the privacy of both the two journalists from City FM when they access their mobile phones without their consent or without a warrant from the court. And this City FM and the City can support the journalists to file an action at the Human Rights Court to vindicate their right for a declaration that what they did was unlawful. And I believe that the more we get such pronouncement by the courts, the more citizens will be emboldened, the more they will be able to demand for their right, because they know that these are not lawful. The other one which I keep stressing on is also that I don't like the idea that we leave it for them to do internal investigations. And I would have hoped that we would have petitioned the how do you call it, the national security minister, because what I have gathered so far shows to me that the people who came to do the operation, he has supervisory control over their action. And finally, for all Ghanaians to demand for an amendment of a very new or recent act, because this whole amorphous institution called national security, which is neither the council but an institution which has just been put under the minister and seems to have powers on ending, and it seems to also be deviating from its core function of collecting information and making it available to the minister. I think that must stop. You have a national security that is more intelligence focused than brute force or physical force. So if you ask me what I thought about the raid, I would say that it is still the old way of intelligence, which is let's use brute force, let's put fear into people. When they see us, they must fear. That is why they will come to city with about 3 cars and fully armed. It's just to put fear into you. And this has been a major problem that Ghana has been experiencing. We are putting physical strength over intelligence gathering. And now if you go to other countries, they are using intelligence in different ways, and it's all about information technology and all that. It's not about showing.
All right, this is the point of view. We're talking national security, the media, and the law. We have been analyzing the case involving our reporter Caleb Kuda, who was beaten up, brutalized by national security operatives on Tuesday, and also the Gestapo-style raid of our office premises by national security. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll take the way forward from our guests. Stay with us.
New Pepsodent Herbal. Introducing a unique combination of herbal extracts in an antibacterial toothpaste for strong teeth and healthy gums that protects your family and you. Every smile matters.
Good Day Energy Drink keeps you going. Available in major supermarkets and shops near you. Excessive drinking can be detrimental to your health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advert is FDA approved.
Welcome back to The Point of View. Tonight we are looking at national security, media, and the law. My guest, initially I had Dr. Kwesi Enin, and I had Sammy Darko, as well as Samson, Lardy. Gentlemen, we've spoken a lot about the Caleb case. I just wanted to touch briefly on the raid itself, which is what I witnessed around 4 o'clock on the said day. I mean, can we? What is the remedy for that? I mean, for Caleb, we've spoken about what can be done, personal suits and things. But for a radio and TV station's premises to be invaded, 3 pickups with guns, I mean, because I noticed you said to me earlier in the week that we could have written to the ministry to constitute an investigation. But a lot of people are saying that the statement of the ministry itself doesn't show that the investigation was satisfactory. How serious an issue is the raid, and what sort of violation is it, and what are the options open to us?
Well, it's very difficult to say what to actually talk about what happened, because they are the best people to defend why they did that. Because, you see, they are in the intelligence community, and we do not know what sort of intelligence that they picked. But judging from everything we've seen from the CCTV and the commentary, we've come to the realization that they overreacted. And these were the words of, say, exuberant officers who maybe wanted to impress a boss or someone. Or it could also be part of this whole anger against the media. Don't forget that the media has come under a barrage of criticisms and attacks, both from the public and state institutions. And people are currently seeing journalists as if they are enemies of the state, instead of people whose job the Constitution guarantees and allows them to hold people in position accountable and responsible. I think that the overreaction is also partly because of this whole fear towards media personnel, and people thinking that media personnel think they are above the law, or they have extra powers to be questioning everybody. And so you realize that even in the account of Caleb, he did talk about how some people think that the guys in the media think that they are above everybody. So I think that the reaction could also be because people are very apprehensive about what the media can do, and they know the power of the media. They want to limit the power of the media.
Samson, do you think we should separate the two incidents and pursue a specific remedy for the raid, or from the way the whole thing is, they are inextricably linked and has to be seen as one issue?
All right, so I have to talk about what is wrong. My ethics restrict me from suggesting to you what you should do in a court of law.
Obviously.
That I'm fanning litigation, but I suppose that there are times where there ought to be some exceptions to some of these rules that bind us in the work we do. You see, leadership is important. I have known Kandapa, and I'm sure you and we have known him. I remember we have been in meetings where he's been there, sharing his views on how to help this country by combating corruption through the various accountability measures and auditing and, financial procedures that must be followed and all of that. He's been in this ministry for a period where all that credibility that he had seems to get out of the window, because of what is going on under his watch. Around the same time, COP Edupoku has been taken to Iyoko. Make a comparison of the two. You don't go to Iyoko anymore and suffer the illegalities, unconstitutional conduct, and the wrongs that were perpetrated against suspects anymore. You don't go to Iyoko anymore, and there's an attempt to punish you with bail. The law says bail shall not be used as punishment. Some of these institutions use bail as punishment, as if without the bail, with the threat of the bail, they can get what they would not have gotten. I represent Ajafo. I have been in the National Service Secretariat, scandal, and I've been telling a story. When myself and Sammy Senior, Kiseja being Egbert Fable, we went to the BNI, now the NIB. There was a lawyer who was the head of the institution at the time. But guess what? We were denied the basic rights of our clients, of their right to have the lawyers present and to assist them in the process. We got so angry and furious. Nobody was ready to listen to us. Now, see what how that is costing the nation. Since 2015, that case has not seen any progress. The court's time, precious time, has been wasted. And we go once in a month and we take an adjournment. You know why? Because the right things that they were supposed to do at the start, they broke them. They broke them so violently. So now the matter is not making any progress. I represent about 7 of the accused persons in that case. And about 3 of them, I took the view professionally that they were guilty. So I led them to plead guilty. You don't have to subject people to torture and ask and extract unnecessary, untruthful confessions from them for them to be able to come to a point of admitting that they have done a wrong. I had to have conference with my clients, and they voluntarily admitted after taking them through a process that they did this. I said, okay, we go, you plead guilty. They plead guilty, and then we went through the process of a plea bargain. So they have paid back the money they stole, if you like, with interest, with compensation, and they haven't gone to jail, but they have been convicted. The national security guys must be made to understand that people having their lawyers with them does not mean that they will stop you from getting what you need to know. Again, Bernard, I think it is important to note that first, we all now agree that no journalistic code of ethics was broken. Article 13 of the Code of Ethics was not broken, because I have been in court, and the court has stressed that journalists must use straightforward means. However, they are entitled to use some other means, including subterfuge, where the national interest is at stake. The job that Caleb was up there doing, is it not about the national interest? Is it not just recently that vehicles that we bought, the gallopers that we bought with our money, spent in excess of $2.6 million to buy them. We kept them until they got to rotting for 17 years. And then we sold them for how much? For less than $300,000. A similar situation was playing out with the Maslow vehicles. And this guy detects it, and he takes the steps to find out if indeed the right thing is being done. And you say what? Security zone? Again, Bernard, I need us to always distinguish between what a security zone is and it's not. In any case, I am still waiting for national security to point out what law Caleb broke. They can't point out one. Now, if I have used the example, if you take the Ministry of Defense, which is the policy center of the defense ministry, of the defense sector, you cannot be classifying, taking exterior photographs, not interior photographs, to mean breaching a security whatever zone. So if you went to the Burma camp, that is the operation center. That is clearly a security zone, even in the absence of any law. I am ready to concede to that. But the policy center, which is a political office where the public must interact with the leaders, their ministers, to formulate policy, cannot be said to be a security zone, especially also in the absence of law. And for those who have been asking, you can't go to Pentagon and take a picture. I'm sure Sammy Darko must have explained that already, that in the United States of America, there is a clear law in their criminal code that empowers the president to so designate a place as a security zone where you cannot take exterior pictures. There are those also who are speaking and saying, how about the courts? Don't we hear that when you go to the court, you can't take a photograph and you'll be punished? Is that not a security zone? And I tell them, because The law provides that if you took a picture within the court, not outside the court, people to disabuse their minds, within the court, where the activity is going on, you will be committing contempt because there is law that backs it. Can they show us the law on which they are acting? Then somebody says, State Secret Act. State Secret Act is a very serious matter to the effect that you are conducting something that suggests espionage. You are conducting something that is prejudicial to the national interest, will hurt, like Sammy used the word, will hurt the security of the state. What was he doing that will hurt the security of the state? And let's not forget, bottom line, our Constitution says in Article 162, Clause 5, that all agencies of the mass media shall, that is mandatory, at all times be free to uphold the principles, the objectives of the Constitution, and the accountability of the government to the people. The only way we can do that is make sure we reflect what happens in public place to the citizens. Because again, Article 21 provides that the people must know they have a right to information, and the right includes that of the media. Article 41 F also says that we have a duty, an onerous duty to protect and preserve public property and combat waste and misuse of public funds. The only way to do it is to do it the way Caleb sought to do. And that is no breach of any law. After all, it is our money that is used, and the Constitution, from the very foundation of it, says that the ultimate power of this country, sovereignty, resides in the people, in whose name and on whose behalf all powers of government shall be exercised.
Thank you for that submission, Samson Lardy Ayenini, a private legal practitioner, a media practitioner, the reigning journalist of the year. Thank you for your insights. We also had Sammy Darko, a media practitioner, security trained, now lawyer. Thank you, Sammy, for your insights as well. We also had Dr. Kwesi Enin, who's a security expert earlier on in the program. My name is Bernard Avere, and don't forget the saying that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Thank you for watching The Point of View. Coming up next is the Business Dashboard. Stay with us.
The Point of View is sponsored by First National Bank. First National Bank, how can we help you? And Cowbell Coffee. Cowbell Coffee. Taste it, love it.